Hey y'all, we're going to take a look at the Risen Star in a second, but I just wanted to put the field up again for you just as sort of a refresher so you can pause and take a look at it. And I'm sure it's ingrained on your brain like it is on mine. It was a pretty tough race to swallow, but there it is nonetheless. So let's have a look at the Risen Star. So now let's have a look at the race, and you've seen the field, so you should be familiar with the post positions for each of the contenders. And so here we go. And you see, right off the bat, I mean, East Avenue broke really well and got into excellent position, but Magnitude just totally negated any problems that the 13 post might have, just bolting right out to the lead, and turned out to be that was the place to be. And you see, Vassimo and Built aren't going to be too far behind. And of course, they misreferenced Render Judgment up there, who really didn't do much running at all. Most of the runners in the back really didn't have much to offer. And I did note, and I'm sure a lot of you did, that earlier on the card, that speed seemed to have a little bit of an edge forward runners over closers. So I think that certainly might have come into the thinking about sending Magnitude. Not to say that he didn't run a stellar race, because he did, but it was a little something there. Now you see American Promise, who took back a little surprisingly, and really didn't mount much of a rally, but did run evenly and finish okay. You see Built trying to make a move here, and that was certainly the smart move on the jockey's part, because you see East Avenue just didn't have it. And I thought that was good to move early and try to run down the leader, but you see Built just couldn't get to him. Nobody could. And you see a bunch of horses in the back, just kind of suck it up with I did tip you guys out to Chunk of Gold, that I thought he might run a pretty good race, and he sure did at 43 to 1. And I didn't have Magnitude, but man, if you bet him a Chunk of Gold across the board, you did all right. Okay, so let's grade out the Risen Star. We'll start with, we'll go one by one. American Promise, I'm giving a gentleman C, let's call it. I thought he ran a very uneventful third. He took back instead of going to the lead. And interesting enough, I mean, the track was playing more to early speed, so I'm a little surprised at that. But also, I don't think Magnitude was just a little too quick. But he kept on, ran pretty evenly, and I'd be surprised if he got an improved speed figure from what he has run. I don't know that this horse is necessarily getting better, but he did sort of hang around, and he got an okay third. But I don't think it was an effort I would be impressed with, or if I'm a backer, I would be happy with. Jonathan's Way, of course, an incomplete because he scratched. Vassimo, another gentleman C, very evenly. Ran around the track. He did great. He had great position. Really no excuses. I think I had sort of suspected he was a grinder, and I kind of think that's what he is. And I think the longer the distance, the more he's going to like it. But I'm not discouraged by what I saw. I'm not encouraged either. I just think it was an okay effort. I expected a little better, but a gentleman C is what I'll give him. East Avenue, D+. The plus is basically because he broke well out of the gate, so that's not a lingering problem from the Breeders' Cup. He did, for the first half of the race, he was exactly where he needed to be, and he looked like he was traveling just fine. But I think he was just a horse who needed a race. Now, we know that about Brendan Walsh, that he is generally a second off the layoff type of trainer. So I'm not willing to close the book on East Avenue just yet, because I did think he was moving along fine. Does he need the lead? I'd have to have everything his own way. We don't know yet. I don't think that was a good indication of it. So let's see if he can, the clock's running now on him a little bit, but let's see what he does in the Louisiana Derby or wherever they send him next. Chunk of Gold, who I did tip you guys out on in my presentation on the Risen Star. I had a pretty good feeling this one was going to run well, and he exceeded my expectations. He definitely gets an A. 43 to 1, first time on dirt. in a graded stakes race, and he gets up for second. He was no threat to win the race, obviously, but it was a very good effort. And he did on the backstretch. He looked like he was going to drop, and then he re-rallied, and so it was a really really solid trip. And we'll see what he does the next start. But it was nice to see that one of those. We always love it when those of us who play Turfway in the cocktail lounge like to see the Turfway horses move to other tracks and do well. So I hope you had Chunk of Gold. You put some money on him across the board or a place or show bet or whatever, because if you did, you got paid. That's for sure. Seattle Road, I didn't expect much from the race, and he didn't deliver anything. He gets an F. Septarian, I'll give a D plus. He's another one. He was a non-factor in the race. What I didn't like in particular was he was mid-pack and he looked like he wanted to start making some headway and just didn't have it in the tank. And he ended up, I don't know, 6th or 7th, but pretty uneventful race, a non-impact race. D plus, but again, I really think this was John Stewart pressuring Chad Brown to put this horse in a graded stakes, put Flavian Pratt on him, and let's just see what we have. But he didn't show me anything, and I really wasn't that keen on him to go into the race anyway, so D plus. Giacoso I was keen on, and he pretty much did the same thing. He didn't really show me anything, and I think he tried to make a move on the back a little bit. He started moving up. He had really good position, and then he just sort of foundered as well. So he gets another D plus. Now, Built, to me, gets a B minus. Now you say, well, okay, he finished third. Doesn't he deserve a little better than that? No, and here's why. I think we know what Built is at this point. I think we've had 3 races to see what he is. He's a very good horse, but he's second tier Derby. He's one of the few already this early. I think we know what he is. He ran his race. His jockey, God bless him, he gave him the perfect trip. When you got a runaway leader on a speed favoring track, or a horse like Magnitude who was about to take over the race and just pull away, you got to move early to catch him. That's exactly what they did with him. It was exactly the right move, moving early before the turn. And I'll tell you, Bill, it looked like Bill was going to get to him, and he just couldn't do it. Because I think while he brings it every time, and you have to love horses like that, his top end just isn't there. And then to top it all off, he lost second to Chunk of Gold. So that really is where the minus is a losing second, and it just not having enough to persist in the stretch. Excuse me. So he's a good horse, but I don't think he's one of the top Derby horses, and I think we know that now, because he's had 3 starts where he's run his race 3 times. He got a first, a second, and a third. And incidentally, note that is as the distances are increasing and the class level is increasing, his placings are regressing. So just to keep that in mind, I think that's more a product of class, not that he doesn't want the distance necessarily. Render Judgment, he's just not improving. He didn't do anything. He gets a D. I mean, I could almost I could almost go so far as to give him a D minus or an F, because this is a horse who's shown a little something in prior races, but he's just not improving. And he just didn't do any running. He was towards the back, and he never got out of first gear. So really did, I don't think it was a disappointing effort on my part. I thought it was what I expected. Jolly Samurai and Vamos Carlitos. I know we had a little bit of interest in Vamos Carlitos, but they don't belong at the graded stakes level, and they're just not good enough. That's what it comes down to. They didn't factor in the race whatsoever. So that leaves us with the head of the class, without a doubt, Magnitude, A+. If I could give something higher than an A, I would give it, because that was about as stellar a race as you could run, especially when you consider Magnitude's prior efforts, where he seemed to be spinning his wheels at the graded stakes level. I don't know where that race came from. I really can't fathom it. Uh, he seemed to be kind of like a lower version or a lesser version of Built, where he runs this race, but it's not good enough, and sometimes he can get into the money, but more often than not, he's fifth. And so I don't know where that race came from. Maybe Steve Asmussen has figured it out with this horse that I just need to get him out of trouble, get him on the lead, and and that's where he runs his best. I don't know. I got to see it again. I think he got a 109 buyer for the race, and that immediately made me recall the last time I saw a buyer like that in a Derby prep was the one that I recalled was 2006, the Bluegrass with Sinister Minister for Bob Baffert, ran a 116. And of course, he flamed out in the Derby as we expected after a big effort like that. And I'm kind of thinking that's what we're going to get with Magnitude next time. I'd be very reluctant to bet him, but we'll see. We'll be monitoring closely, see how he works out. So, as it often is the case with Derby preps, we've got some answers, but we've still got some questions. The big questions are, can East Avenue rebound? Was he a one-hit wonder at 2? Can Magnitude repeat? Can he build off of what he did in the Risen Star? Is Chunk of Gold a horse with another dirt race under his belt? Will he move forward and become a real prime contender? And Built, I think we don't really have any questions left on Built, I should say. I think they've been answered as far as and then, so I think really the two horses that come out of this race that I think we obviously have to pay attention to are East Avenue and Magnitude. And they're the ones where, even with an impressive win like that, all it did was pose more questions for me about Magnitude than answers. So I hope our analysis helps you with your formulation. We're going to have our first Kentucky Derby top 10 list coming up this week. And I think we're at the point now where we can start having a list. And we got the Rebel Stakes this week, so we will have a posting on that, as well as the Honeybee and the sequence for Oaklawn, best bets, value plays, all that good stuff. So plenty of content on the way. So be on the lookout for that. If you do like content like this, of course, please like and subscribe. Thanks to all of you who have come on board. That's it from here. I'll talk to you soon. And until then, be well.